Hey guys, this is the Rubin Report. I am Dave Rubin, and I've got Ben Mankiewicz, Jimmy Dore with me. I should tell you right up front, this is the first panel ever that is being brought back by popular demand. You, the people, demanded that I bring back these two together, and that's what we did. Do you have any thoughts on that before we begin?
Perhaps they're fans of the Jimmy Dore show.
I think that's what it was.
How many subscribers now for the Jimmy Dore show?
We're up to 125,000.
All right, there you go. Very good. All right.
Very nice.
Let's talk about Robin Williams. So obviously that's the big news this week. Apparently he commits suicide, 63 years old. You've heard all about it, obviously. So let's just watch some clips.
Good morning, Vietnam! Hey, this is not a test. This is rock and roll. God, it's hot in here.
I know size can be daunting, but don't be afraid. I love you.
I love you!
Mark, calling Orson. Come in, you boob-tubeness.
Is that you, Mork?
Oh, yes, sir. Talk about your bad connections here.
If I took LSD, I'd be talking to every blade of grass like, sorry, sorry, sorry. To walk into a Major League Baseball stadium like, shh, 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 shh.
In your face, camel cake!
In your rear, cow derriere.
Lying, crying, spying, prying, ultra pig!
You lewd, crude, rude bag of pre-chewed food dude.
Now, you asked me if I've been practicing medicine. Well, if this means opening your door to those in need, those in pain, caring for them, listening to them, applying a cold cloth until a fever breaks, if this is practicing medicine, if this is treating a patient, then I am guilty as charged, sir.
All right, a true legend, obviously, and just insane talent. I mean, everything he did was good. So I thought having you two on for this would be perfect because I got the movie guy and the comedy guy. So let's start with the movie guy. I'm not even going to give you a question. Just give me something.
Let me disagree with you right off the bat.
Please.
Let me challenge the host. Everything he did wasn't good. In fact, many of them were very, very bad.
Yeah?
And
Don't you want to save this for the end? You want to start there, Ben?
No, because the testament to his strength as a performer is that I think he could have made 1,000 bad movies and everyone still loved Robin Williams.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. His thing, and his thing was varied. You know, he could be very somber and very dark, and then everybody knows how sort of exuberant and sort of, you know, scandalously over the top he could be. It didn't matter. We still loved Robin Williams, even if you walked out of a movie and thought, that was horrible.
Wait, so what were some of the bad ones? Because when I was looking through the list, every one I kept looking, I was like, love that, love that, love that. This was great.
Bicentennial Man,
I guess,
Father's Day, and
Father's Day with Billy Crystal. That was the one that really sucked, I guess, because they
Night
should
at the
have.
Museum, like the later ones, you know, the first one was okay, but I mean, these are kids' movies. They weren't serious. But I like the first Night at the Museum fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a pretty good list of 10 or 12 movies, plus a canceled television show that critics didn't really like. I never saw it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a testament to how great a performer he was that he could perform in so many different ways, live in front of a crowd as a stand-up, in a theater, on television, or in movies. And the overall quality of the work was sometimes questionable, but his work was never really questionable. And whatever this sort of feeling that we had to care about him persevered no matter the strength of the material.
Yeah, before we get to the dark comedian secret, that kind of thing, do you think there's ever going to be a performer? We don't have those guys anymore that Ben's talking about, the guys that can do stand-up, that can act in movies. You know, he was just in a sitcom, it was canceled, but we really don't have those guys anymore,
Now that
right?
Buddy Epson's gone, I don't really think...
Dance Man.
I think you talk about, you love Robin Williams even when he's in a bad movie. I mean, that's the same, like with Ishtar. I thought he was great in that. I thought that people didn't like that movie. Beverly Hills Cop was some of his best work, though. The thing was weird when he was in Matrix. I was like, this is going to be weird because I'm going to be laughing, but it did work. It worked. He played kind of dumber than he is. Yeah. And the thing that killed me, like, because you mentioned his television.
I didn't realize at the beginning, I was like, I don't think he was in Ishtar.
No,
I was.
Well, you mentioned his television work.
Just nod.
And I was going nuts when they canceled Boston Legal. I'm like, that is the best goddamn. I mean, it won Emmys, but they didn't care about the quality, right? So then they gave him some shitty show on CBS or whatever. But anyway, I loved all that stuff, I'll watch him in anything. And I didn't think, people gave him shit, well, he shouldn't be Batman, but I thought he did a great job. He was fantastic. That's why I love him. He was a chameleon, right? He could do anything.
Yeah.
He's very, very much like Jack Nicholson in that way.
I'm very shocked how this segment has started. We went immediately to his bad movies and now to the lesser-known cameos that he had in those roles. No, but all right.
Ted Poets Society was a big movie that influenced my life.
Yeah.
For real. Like, so when I saw it, and I had only heard, you know, he was, of course, a hero to me when he was Mork and Mindy, and then I saw Dead Poet Society, and it woke up something in me like, oh, everything's bullshit. And that's when I kind of realized, oh, everything's bullshit in the world, and nothing matters, and try to have some honey drip off your tongue while you're still alive.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean that in a filthy way.
It sounded kind of filthy.
Yeah, well, I do go to Honey Pots in Reno, and that's a fun, anyway.
Let me tell one amusing story about Dead Poets Society that relates not to Robin Williams, but to Joe Biden.
Okay.
So at TCM, we do this thing in 2004 where we talk to politicians about the movies that influenced their lives. And we get an incredible group because we get John Edwards, John McCain, Joe Biden, like 3 guys who made some news in the years that followed, right? Yeah. And then Orrin Hatch. Who gives a shit? Yeah. So you had 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. So Biden picked Dead Poets Society.
Really?
Right. But only because it was shot in Delaware. Oh. It was like the first movie shot in Delaware. So in talking to him about it, I would say, you know, what about the message of the movie that, you know, that sort of to challenge authority and question things and believe in yourself and stand up for what you believe in? And he'd be like, yeah, that was great. I just remember the scene where they're running over the hills, and that was about a mile and a half from my house. So that's cool. Every question he would answer was something about Delaware.
That's so Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is so Biden. All right, Jimmy, explain the dark mind of the comedian, because that's what everybody's talking about. These people make everybody laugh. That's what we do, but secretly we're all depressed.
Well,
suicidal.
Yes. Well, we're like what the people go, well, doesn't a lot of comedy come from dark? Yes, well, that's what you need comedy for. You don't need comedy to lighten the load of your day at Disneyland. You need comedy to lighten the load of the fucking horrible shit in your life, right? You need to talk about, he talked about drug addiction and stuff. You know, that's why comedians constantly talk about their marriages or their relationships or their work or whatever. It's things that frustrate us that we need comedic relief from. So, of course he was depressed, and it seems like, you know, like the more depressed you are, except for Jerry Seinfeld, seems like the more messed up you are, the better your art is. That seems to be always what it is, right? Because you feel a need to connect with people more, you need to express yourself more, because you have angst. And so he had that. So when people, that's kind of bothers me. They go, oh, well, he was, you know, he's a clown, but he's got to have a dark side. Everybody has a dark side. Right. We just have also a talent for comedy. Everybody's messed up. There are 30,000 or 39,000 suicides a year in America. So it's not...
They're not all comedians.
Right, they're not all comedians. Exactly,
yeah,
there you go.
If only.
Well, I always think it's funny when I think they just juxtapose it because it's like, how can you be dark and then also make people laugh?
Oh my God,
but it's such a simplistic way of looking at it.
Yeah, he just has it, like Jerry Seinfeld says, he has it, you know, I remember he was talking with Gary Shandling. Gary Shandling said, do you think that it's because we're screwed up? And Jerry says, no, I have a talent. I have a talent for comedy. How about I'm a regular person and I have a talent for this? So I just think that, you know, I think comedians on a lot of ways used comedy to get attention. I'm sure that's what he did, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was, you know, when I met Robin, he was very, he didn't really get going until there were a couple of people in the room. You know what I mean? And that's what I noticed anyway, firsthand.
Yeah.
But I think that bothers me when people say comedians are depressed or they're darker or they're no. We have a talent. We learned how to get attention being funny, which to me is the best gift you can give somebody. If you tell someone something that makes them laugh, you've just lightened their day. You've made them connected to the moment. You're living in the present. So now that's spiritual. To me, comedy is my spirituality.
As a non-comedian,
Jimmy and I are the greatest people alive.
Yeah. As a non-comedian, I'd like to share my thoughts on that because I think you're by echoing Jerry Seinfeld's point, which is a good point, right? That I'm just talented and that I'm a regular person. It ignores the fact that there is something particularly special about the talent that you have, and it's possible, we don't really know, that talent comes from something else, that there is some other part of you. And it doesn't mean that all of you are depressed. It might mean that there's a 28% chance that some of you are darker. And I just think that that's possible. It doesn't change what's true about what he says. It does seem, based on 100% anecdotal evidence, that the times that the regular folks among us run into comedians in places where they're not on, you often think, not that guy wasn't funny, but that like, boy, that guy was like, that guy seemed dark. That guy seemed kind of bummed out, like not what you'd expect. But that also may just be our inability to process a difference between, obviously, you're on stage and you wouldn't meet Laurence Olivier and be like, hey, that guy, why wasn't that guy acting acting, when we were having a whiskey at a cocktail party.
Right, well, comedians are supposed to be themselves, and actors are supposed to be someone else. So
That's right, that's right.
But comedians are a sliver of who they are, and then you amp that up. So the best part of who you are, the most likable, charming part of who you are, you amp that up on stage. So that's not your whole. You can't. Nobody wants to see you go out there with a belt.
Wait, I one more quick before we got to wrap this one up. Do you think part of this though is also that Hollywood kind of? I know that's a broad statement, but Hollywood kind of doesn't know how to deal with people with that level of talent. Like they can sort of deal with people that have a certain amount of talent, a lot of talent often, but he was really off the charts, and maybe that sort of fed into whatever was going on.
I think a lot of really talented people, they don't quite know what to do with. I think that there's some truth to that.
I certainly feel misunderstood.
Yeah, we're talking mostly about people with a lot of talent. I mean, I hear you, but
even a little.
Yeah.
Even a little people don't get it.
All right, bring us home.
Like you thought I was serious about the Ishtar thing. That's what I'm talking about. This is the kind of shit I run into every goddamn day.
The thing about Robin Williams is that, and we don't know because none of us knew him well. Jimmy met him, but none of us knew him well.
Yeah.
So, like, he seemed, unlike some comedians, even some very funny comedians, to be incredibly authentic. As funny as Jerry Seinfeld is, I don't feel like I have any insight into Jerry Seinfeld at all. Robin Williams appeared to make you feel like you sort of knew Robin Williams. Therefore, it seems incongruous to have a guy this sad. Look, can I read one quote and then we'll go? So this is what he told Mark Maron in 2010, talking about the downside of his career. It's trying to fill a hole, and it's fear, he told Maron. You're going, what am I doing in my career? You bottom out. People say, you have an Academy Award. The Academy Award lasted about a week, and then 1 week later, people are going, hey, Mork.
Ah.
So.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Van Gogh cut his ear off. That's all.
So that's the thing, right? So people think, well, he had everything. Well, that's the mistake we make in American culture and a lot of cultures is that we think fulfillment is on the other side of achievement, right? And then I don't know if when you achieve a couple of big things in your life, you go, hey, that's a bunch of bullshit. I feel exactly the same, and I feel a little fucking cheated actually. I've arrived, but I don't feel any different. I'm exactly myself. Give me a belt and a fucking closet door because I want to kill myself.
Yeah, it's almost like you need the hole to have talent. You need that pain to have talent, but then you got to sort of heal that thing to really move forward.
And the talent itself won't heal.
And the talent won't heal it. All right, let's move on. So ISIS. So, last week we did a video on ISIS. Everyone's talking about ISIS now. We were a day or two ahead of the thing. They are releasing these insane videos of beheadings and massacres and just shooting people in the streets and all this terrible stuff. And we showed one of them last week, and now we actually found a worse one. So I'm just warning you, this is beyond graphic and horrible, so you are warned.
الرؤوس النصيرية اللواء 93 الدولة الإسلامية هذا هو الأخ الذي يقوم بجز رأس أحد النصيرية من عناصر اللواء 93.
Okay, so that was ISIS beheading a Syrian soldier in Syria, not in Iraq. They are in Iraq and Syria. And I think it's important to show this stuff because the mainstream media isn't showing it, partly just because it's so graphic, but also this is spreading. This is getting worse every day. I feel like we don't even know how to talk about this because it's that horrific and we've never dealt with anything of that level.
People say really bad things about ISIS, but they did return that severed head to its rightful body at the end of that video. So, let's just keep
and I hear they have a great dental plan.
Make sure we put it all in context. Yeah, I think it's important to show it too. I think we should be careful a little bit. I think you should show it and we should talk about it, but I mean, Iraq and Syria for the last few years, I mean, it's not the first beheading. I don't know whether these guys are doing it a ton more than was happening in Iraq when, more than 100,000 civilians were killed during the war.
Right, we do have weird rules. If you shoot, 10,000 people, they somehow think that's not that bad. But if we see 100 people decapitated, then it's much worse. But I guess it's the optics of it.
Well, I think that guy was already dead. I'm pretty sure, so I don't think it bothered him that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets back to this thing of war, like what's cool, what's not cool. Like somehow that's worse then they already killed him. So I understand you're supposed to have reverence for a body and all that stuff, which I don't know how much I believe in for real, right? And because it just makes people crazier, right? Oh, we have to protect this sacred body. They're dead. The guy's dead already. It doesn't really matter. And you know, yeah, they've been beheading people. They used to have guillotines in civil society. So this is not that. To me, it's like, it's gruesome to look at, but you know, it's not any more gruesome than the rest of the war. They have 40,000 people on the top of a mountain that they're trying to kill, that they don't even have shoes or water. They're dying from thirst.
Right, so we are down doing some strikes, and we apparently dropped some food and some water.
Yeah, so you know, I'm getting that that thing that people had during the Syria thing. You know, some people wanted, let's say we got to go by. I'm getting that, right? Even though I'm totally against that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I was walking my dog today. I was like, I would like to go shoot some ISIS guys.
So that's the thing about this. Well, one, they stopped doing the guillotine in part because it was too hard to cut somebody's head off, even with the guillotine, which that video shows. It's not easy, which is why they'll ultimately stop, just from a manpower point of view.
It's just a lot of work.
For very little reward. But the reward that they have now is terror. It strikes terror into people. And of course, what this builds, the danger of what this builds, and what they are hoping, you know, what they would like to accomplish, I suspect, if they're this sophisticated about it, is that, you know, John Kerry and the foreign minister of Australia get on television and they talk about the picture of the boy with the holding the severed head.
Well, let's show that right now.
So, like, and that picture does nothing. Like, everybody's grotesque. Unless you see the real picture, this means nothing.
Right, so this is the 7-year-old son of a guy named Khalid Sharoof, who was a convicted Australian terrorist who left Australia to go fight for ISIS, and he brought his kid. So yeah, the only image we could find was with it blocked out.
I tried to find the real one, and I couldn't.
It turns out that guy's dad is schizophrenic.
Yeah, he's schizophrenic.
And he's been in hospitals, and he's been and for some reason they treated him, and they're like, hey, he's cured.
He's a comedian.
Yeah, he's just a comedian with issues. You know,
comedian with issues. Look, what worries me, and it worries me, but I'm certain it will happen, is that you get John Kerry and the foreign minister of Australia talking about how hideous this is. Everybody's talking about how hideous this is. At some point, some Western country will capture some ISIS guys, right? And we will think these are the guys we sawing this guy's head off, right? And the kid made his kid hold a severed head. John Kerry was revolted by it, right? Well, we're not going to want to give that guy a trial. We're not going to care how long we lock that guy up without giving him a trial and just throw him away in a cell or execute him and never let him see a judge, you know. This week, Ramzi bin al-Shibh, one of the orchestrators of the 9/11 attack, who we caught in 2002, has just had his trial separated from the other guys. It's 2014. These guys haven't gone in front of a judge yet for their formal trial. And the prosecuting saying, that's outrageous. How can you separate this trial? When it seems like there's real evidence that the torture that we did to bin al-Shibh has made him insane, and he's not competent to assist in his own defense. We don't care. We don't care because they killed 3,000 people. And the system that we had and the structure of justice is supposed to apply to everyone. But these guys are going to make us, once again, shrug our shoulders and abandon any sort of rule of law, because we're going to feel like these guys, when they sawed off that Syrian soldier's head, they lost the right to be treated civilly. And the war machine will continue.
Are we really dealing with something that we've never dealt with in that regard? Like, they want us to play on our worst parts of ourselves. That seems obvious. They want war, you know what I mean? It's like with Hamas, and they want dead civilians on both sides, so then they force Israel to shoot, and then Israel does something they don't want to do, and then you just get more dead people. So we're really in like a culture war right now, right? Yeah. Across the world.
I would disagree with that framing, but I don't remember what your question was.
All right, forget that question then. Let's move on to, so ISIS again is, they're
Can I say this about ISIS, right? So this just goes, again, the hubris of American foreign policy to think that somehow we're going to go fix the Middle East, right? So we're going to go and we're going to bring democracy to the people of Iraq with their purple fingers. They fucking voted. So like that was some kind of a thing. So what everybody said would happen exactly happened. There's a power vacuum in the worst of the worst. So we made this system, $25 billion we spent training the Iraqi army. 700 of those ISIS guys chased 35,000 Iraqi army guys away. They just dropped their uniforms and left.
And by the way, ISIS is now using our stuff. They're using our artillery and things because they just stole it.
And John McCain would probably say, we got to give the arms to someone else that somebody's going to capture.
You got Democrats and Republicans telling Barack Obama that we made a huge mistake by not giving arms to Syrian moderates, as if we could
figure
out who they were, and that now ISIS has filled the power vacuum that we abandoned. I mean, the only legitimate criticism that you can give to the administration in Syria, to me, is, well, we did nothing and this happened, but you cannot extrapolate that this happened because we did nothing.
Yes, because if we would have did something, it might have been worse.
Or more likely, nothing. Like it would have. There'd be a lot more U.S. arms there, and we'd be essentially in the same situation. But that we could have prevented it by funding these guys, I think, is silly. And the fact of the matter is, we absolutely can't possibly know.
Right, and we fund guys, and then we fund the guys that come after them. And when the Syria thing was happening, I remember me and you were the two that were completely against the war. I mean, think about it. They wanted to bomb Assad. Well, then that would have just now strengthened ISIS. So everything we do is kind of backwards. So it goes to my last question on this. Was this sort of the perfect storm of, we had the war that was made up, the Iraq war that George W. Bush, it's obviously his and Cheney's fault, but then Obama was sort of the perfect president to now screw it up even further by completely getting us out. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wanted out, but we had a bad president that got us in, and then this guy that just felt like, well, it's not ours to take care of anymore. So it was sort of perfect storm of, well, this is what's going to happen.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think one of the good things that he's done is get us out. I mean,
I don't know what the alternative is.
I don't know what the alternative is either. And so, at some point, you have to leave. I mean, I don't know what's long enough. 8 years strikes me as probably long enough. 3 years longer than World War II strikes me as long enough. And I don't know what we could have done, and what you think if we'd spent another $7 billion and trained those guys for another year, they'd have been better? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
they didn't want to fight.
So we just don't know what we're doing. That's sort of the answer.
There's no doubt about that, David. I don't understand why. So where's Saudi Arabia? You know, why aren't they? Don't they have a problem with ISIS, or are they cool with ISIS? Right?
They gotta have a problem with ISIS. ISIS is a threat. Saudi Arabia is part of the caliphate.
What about Egypt? You know, what about
why do we have to do
why
everything?
Why do we have to do
Egypt, Saudi Arabia,
exactly.
There's other countries, Jordan,
which is
that
what
are
Osama bin Laden said about when we went into Kuwait. The United States went into the Kuwait. He's like, you know, why didn't we take care of this? Why we got to ask the infidels to come over and take care of this? And that's what exactly. Why didn't Saudi Arabia take care of Kuwait? Why didn't they fucking do that? Why did we have to go? So that's what I don't get. Like, what are the other Arab oil-rich countries doing with all their money and weaponry?
Let's see what happens. One thing that ISIS has done well is they're paying guys who are paying poor young men to fight. Are they capable of governing? I doubt it.
No.
I doubt it. So, you know, and we still don't know how many guys there are. Like, how many are we talking about?
So where's the UN too? Like, why isn't there a force that can go in and save these people? Why?
I don't think we have a force anymore.
No, the UN.
No, I know, but I don't think it exists anymore. I think it's just either the US does something or nobody does anything, and I don't know that either one's any better. But yes, as ISIS is rampaging across Iraq and Syria, the Emir of Mosul had some interesting things to say about their grand plans. This is nothing. We're just at the beginning. Up until now, we've used just a small part of the forces that we have at our disposition. You cannot imagine how strong we really are. We have immense power. You'll be amazed you won't be able to defeat us. And he goes on. We've never feared the Americans, not even in the past when they were in a weaker position. Why on earth do you think we would fear them now? We've beaten them before, and we'll beat them again. Allah curse the Americans and their allies. They will come to a very bad end. So I think a lot of this is probably just posturing and all this stuff. But do we have to take any of this seriously?
Now, is this part of that, you know, Ralph Harris, the famous atheist, says that, you know, it takes religion to make men do things that are horrible like this, right? To cut someone's head off, to kill 40,000 people. So would you say this is is this religion, or is this, what would you say? I would say that this is, again, one part of the bad parts of religion, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's probably 75% religion, 25% of our policies that propped up awful people to repress their own people, and this is what you get.
Yeah, I don't know. The only issue to me, the only relevant question is, what do we do now? And, you know, if these guys, you know, we saw there that it was, we know they didn't have a lot of, I'm just going to leave the hair like that. We're just going to,
no, that's nice,
we're just going to call it sexy. Yeah. Okay, I can't fix it. All right, for some reason it's not happening. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right, baby. So like, if there's 700 of these guys, or 1,700, or 2,700, we should bomb the living shit out of them, especially if they're in the open. You know, we're not. This is not Gaza. This is not a densely populated city where kids and women and children live and innocent men. So strike while you can, because maybe that will do the trick. If they're stronger than that, then we're just going to have to deal with them. I don't think any of us want to go fight a war against them and send in American troops and send in 75,000 American troops to fight these guys there, because they'll win. In the long run, they'll win, and they'll find it easier. They live there. They live there, and we want to go home. So you hope that you can build a political, diplomatic coalition of Arab neighbors and friends and allies who will help you to politically isolate these guys. I don't know if that's possible. Yeah. But as long as there are two civil wars raging, that's very hard to do.
Right. So that just doesn't exist, though, right?
Well, it doesn't seem to be, right? Unless you really have oil companies wanting it to happen. Remember when George Bush went crazy trying to get the coalition of the willing? Hey, we've got 36 countries with it, but that wasn't a real coalition. So we need to put together a real coalition, like a real UN again. I mean, that's what really needs to happen. You need to have a bunch of countries and they're fighting against them. But this is the world against them.
Yeah, it seems to me that that's gone. Like this thing with the Yazidis on the mountain.
Yeah.
If there were, everyone knew there were 40,000 people sitting up there starving to death. They were surrounding the mountain, ISIS, and everyone was saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's like, well, obviously only the United States was going to do it. So this is like our curse, right? This is now our curse.
Well, why wouldn't Saudi Arabia do something? Why wouldn't another country step in?
I just don't think they care. I think everyone thinks the U.S. will come in and clean up the mess. But it's becoming a problem on the streets of Europe. We've got an interesting image out of Holland. These are ISIS flags being flown in Holland. So what are these? This is happening now. There have been ISIS flags in London. They've been in Paris. Like, what is happening here? And, you know, Europe has this major immigration problem, especially France, because they've let in a lot of people that didn't get integrated into society properly. What are you supposed to do? I mean, we don't have it here in America. I saw there was one in New Jersey, actually.
Is that right?
There was one guy in New
Jersey.
Honestly,
you remember after 9/11, the football player from the Phoenix Cardinals, I forget his name now, Tillman. Yeah. Pat Tillman, he was up, you know, he got so worked up and he went and he volunteered because he wanted to go kill some Al-Qaeda for America. Yeah. That's how I feel about these ISIS guys, and they really haven't even done anything to us yet. I swear to God, I'm walking my dog, I'm like, if I had a gun, I would join. I would go over there and start shooting some MFers.
Yeah, so what do you make though? What are the Europeans supposed to do? This stuff, it seems like it's growing there now. They're not beheading yet, but the flags, it's like who in their right mind lives in a Western country and is somehow backing that?
I guess, you know.
Be more involved than me, because I'm not getting it.
Well, clearly you have to be a serious practicing Muslim to begin with, right? So,
or at least say you are.
And to some extent, somewhat fundamentalist. The difference, the thing that we can't do is look at people in Holland with a flag who are saying, look at the guys who have been, in their mind perhaps, pushed around forever, right? And now are standing up and are winning. We never win. And here we are in this stage winning because the West has already left. And what we can't do is presume that these guys holding the flags, well, we have to be wary of it, but we can't presume these guys holding the flags are ready to take up arms in any way. Most of these people are going to go back home and cook dinner and go to their jobs in the next morning. But they like the fact that they're winning.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm not. Wow. Even Jimmy, always against war at all costs.
I'm all for free speech and everything, but you know, to me, it's like the same thing if you carry around a KKK or swastikas. It's like this is only about hate and killing. It's the most heinous thing. We are terrorism. We're the embodiment of it. We're trying to scare the shit out of the world. So it's like you want to scare the shit out of me. Well, how about if I try to scare the shit out of you back because we can?
Well, I think partly they're empowered because I think they think that Europe's just going to do nothing.
So it's going to come down to what do they do if they are able to succeed? Because at some point, the only way they're going to keep anyone in any of those places happy, and by the way, they're going to kill, mostly who they kill, of course, are Muslims. Like at some point, that's going to bother.
That's what I'm saying.
That's going to bother
everyone
else, right? So, but again, it depends on whether you're Sunni or Shia. But at some point, they're going to have to open a school, and they're going to have to run water to people, and they're going to have to provide basic services.
Yeah.
And they have to prove that they can do that. Right now, they've just hired a bunch of thugs to go cut people's heads off. I don't know that video is going to scare us of the severed head. I suspect that as we see more of that, it will also scare plenty of people.
Well, it's an easy transition from head severing to roads and transportation.
All right, there you go. So Hillary Clinton is in some hot water with President Obama. She's been making the rounds. You know, she's in the media every freaking day. And she basically said that Obama should have armed the Syrian rebels, which we've already been talking about. And why do we think that would have worked? I do not know. But the Daily Beast had an interesting piece on this. According to one of the lawmakers, Senator Bob Corker asked the president a long question that included sharp criticisms of President Obama's handling of a number of foreign policy issues, including Syria, ISIS, Russia, and Ukraine. Obama answered Corker at length. Then the president defended his administration's actions on Syria, saying that the notion that many have put forth regarding arming the rebels in Syria would have led to better outcomes in Syria was horseshit. Holy cow, the president said horseshit. So this seems like it's a kind of direct attack on Hillary.
Why is it a direct attack on Hillary? Because does she give? Because her quote about arming the rebels was pretty tepid. Like first of all, this is going to be nothing in regard to Hillary and Obama.
Yeah.
It is not in Hillary's interest to be seen as an Obama lackey at all. She has to stay close enough to him so she doesn't alienate mainstream Democrats. She won't do that. But obviously showing some independence from the administration that is relatively unpopular, not as unpopular as people would like to have you believe, is a useful political tool. But she didn't say anything like Obama made a mistake. She said that she argued, knowing how difficult to arm a certain select group of Syrian moderates and that it might have helped. And now the reason this is a story is because the president said the word horseshit, which is horseshit. Like, he may have said it. I hope he said it. That's a human moment that he had. The White House has confirmed the exchange with Senator Corker of Tennessee. They have not confirmed the use of the expletive.
Yes.
Fuck you. Who cares whether he said horseshit in a private meeting?
Oh, great. Now Ben Mankiewicz said, fuck you about horseshit, but we've got the quote from Hillary. Obama's failure to help build up a credible fighting force of the people who were originators of the protests against Assad. There were Islamists, there were secularists, there were everything in the middle. The failure to do that left a big vacuum, which the jihadists have now filled. So,
well, I hadn't read that quote. I'll be honest.
Wow, you're retracting your retracting.
That's a strong. I still don't think it's anything, and I still think the political part of this stands. That's a strong anti-Obama quote. But that said, there are plenty of Democrats in the House and the Senate who believe that exact same thing, who were at that big lunch of lawmakers with the president to discuss foreign policy right before Congress went on recess. Hillary now count her among them. There is obviously a significant disagreement about what we should have done in Syria. I don't think it's that big a deal that it suggests that there's a huge fight.
Yeah. All right. Well, you hit most of the meat here, but is part of this just that Obama is basically in lame duck territory at this point? So Hillary, by hitting him, no skin off her back, right?
I agree. There's no sweat off her back. I think I just want to make 2 points. You know, Hillary's saying that's completely politics, and she's a war hawk, and she's a corporatist, and she's our liberal candidate.
What do you make of her moving to the right now? Because she lost in 2008.
Because she went to the right.
Well, but that's what she did in 2008. She was to the right of Obama.
She went to the right of Obama, and she lost.
So why do it now? Doesn't it seem a little early?
You know, it's just the way the gears work, man. She's been to the right ever since 1992. So she doesn't know how to do anything else. I mean, she's sitting on the boards of Walmart. She's deregulating fucking. She's pushing forward a corporatist healthcare reform. She's deregulating Wall Street. She is exactly the opposite of FDR. She is the opposite. She might be good on women's issues, and that's what we're left with. We're left on the margins. Lilly Ledbetter and abortion, but not the core thing that makes people radical, that makes Clive Bundy and all those assholes want to take up arms against the government. It's because we're being screwed over. The biggest ass reaming in the history of this country is happening right now from the military to industrial complex and Wall Street, and they've somehow got us fucking angry at each other because there's no good jobs. 50% of the people in America earn less than $30,000. That's workers. So there's a big problem. That creates unrest, and that's what's going to radicalize America, and she's part of it. And the reason she goes, oh, the problem here is Barack Obama and he didn't arm the frickin' rebel. The problem is there was a goddamn drought in Syria. That's what this all got started, because there was a drought and people didn't have jobs. Their farms failed. They went into the cities. There was no food and water in the cities, and the world did not respond. People they asked for help in Syria and they did not respond. I'm sorry to filibuster.
No. Go ahead.
I think that what's interesting about what Jimmy said, and I agree with, I think 100% of it.
Well, you just disagreed with yourself a second ago.
I did, so give me a second.
Yeah, take your time.
I'll come
here.
around.
Yeah.
If Hillary had shown backbone that she is once again not showing in 2004, 2005, and come out against the Iraq War anytime before it was like the meter went,
Yes.
okay, now it's safe to come out against
Yes.
it, she'd be president of the United States
Yes.
right now. So
no doubt about it.
Lesson not learned.
No, and if Barack Obama would say horseshit more often, he would be a more effective president. To have a real moment instead of always constantly choosing his words with a million uhs and qualifiers in between. That's why people like George Bush, because he said stuff like horseshit, and he talked like a regular person, so people thought it was authentic. And people think Barack Obama isn't authentic because he's not authentic.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, is the horseshit moment? Is that just sort of like Obama's just? I feel like he's just kind of done now. Like he's ready to move to Palm Springs.
He should have been. If he would have been done 6 years ago, he could have got a lot more shit done. That's the truth.
There you go. All right, let's keep it political. This one is, I literally cannot believe this story. The White House is reversing a ban on lobbyists. We talk about money in politics here every week. This is pretty much the root of all problems. Nobody is debating that, and the White House is on the wrong side of it. Let's look at a little info. This is from Politico. The new rule affects a policy implemented in June 2010 as part of Barack Obama's ethics package, but keeps some of the ban in place. Lobbyists will be allowed to serve only in commissions and boards in a representative capacity, so long as they're acting on behalf of a corporation, trade association, or industry group, and not as private citizens or representatives of the government.
That seems opposite.
Please go. I can't even.
It seems the opposite of what you're supposed to do. It's like, well, if you want to come here as a citizen, okay, but if you're going to be representing some big behemoth moneymaker who's going to undermine democracy, no. Oh no, it's the opposite. If you're if you're speaking for someone who wants to undermine the democratic process with money, come on in. If you're a regular citizen, go pound sand.
That's why the problem with this and the defense of the Obama administration here is that they're reacting to a court ruling that they lost. They were on the right side of this. It was not the strongest lobbyist ban in the first place, but now even the moderate strength of it was undermined by the appellate court. So this goes to the point that Wolfpack is involved in, is that unless you change the Constitution, it's really hard to do anything right. And you read the quotes in this story, and it's all about like the most powerful people in the world saying, finally we get a seat at the table. You're like, what the fuck?
I mean, they are literally saying you only get a seat at the table if you have money. If you are a regular citizen, I just don't. So what's the administration? Why do this?
They lost the court case.
But then why push this even further?
I mean, they're just responding to they're largely responding to the defeat of a court case. I don't think they're like, oh, I can't believe we lost this court case. It's devastating. They're like, all right, we lost the court case. Let the guy.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So, as the opposite of what George Bush would have done, he would have just said, well, we don't agree with that court's decision. We're going to keep doing it this way.
Right. That's right.
That's exactly what Barack Obama should have said. And what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Lose in the public opinion? He's not. He's going to say, hey, I'm fighting against lobbyists here, and that's a winner for him. But again, that's not who he is. He's one of them. People always say, why is he doing that? He's goddamn one of them.
So is that the thing then, that we have gotten we talk about it here, but the media literally never talks about campaign finance anymore.
Ever.
So is that why for him it's not a winning issue, not that he needs to win again, but it's not even an issue for him to go out on because just nobody gives a fuck.
Well, like for instance, abortion. The Republicans know it's never going to be overturned, but they fucking bring it up every 5 seconds, right? Because it's a big winner for them politically.
Yeah.
This actually could have traction in legislatures and get overturned as an amendment, and it's a political winner, and he still doesn't bring it up.
Yeah, does Obama want it both ways with everything? I remember during the campaign, he kept saying how they're not going to use super PACs, they're not going to use super PACs. And then Romney started using super PACs. So then Obama was like, well, we have no choice because we have to do it. So he kind of does want it both ways because he knew that was ultimately going to happen, right? The Republicans were going to do it, and then everyone would be like, well, you got to do it too because this sucks. So he kind of wants both?
Yeah, I mean, I would have done the same thing in that case. I wouldn't stand on.
Yeah, I'm not even putting down for it. It's the game, but
it's the game. It's important that somebody says at the it's important at least that we talk about. This was the first time we really could in this last election talk about super PACs. So at least if somebody says each time this is terrible, maybe at some point they'll go away. It doesn't seem like we're headed in that direction right now.
Yeah, National Retail Federation Store magazine came out with a list of the top 10 retailers. These are the top 10 retailers that are growing right now. We've got a list. So there's some interesting stuff here. So Amazon.com, #1, Sherwin-Williams, 2, Chick-fil-A, Family Dollar stores, Apple, Tractor Supply Company, Whole Foods, AT&T Wireless, Signet, Jewelers, Starbucks. Leave it up for just 1 second here. So this is kind of all over the place, and that's what I thought was interesting. So you've got something like Whole Foods at #7. That's really high-end stuff and extremely expensive. And then if you look at '4, you've also got Family Dollar stores.
And then at #5, like, I mean, you got.
And then at #5, you got the extremely expensive.
Unless they mean actual apples.
They just mean apples, Granny Smith.
Yeah,
and
the people are moving apples.
Yeah.
Look what's missing.
Yeah, all right. You can come back.
Walmart is missing from that. Target is
so
missing.
So this is in terms of growth. That's why. So these are the ones that are growing right now.
Still significant.
Okay.
But that's why I thought this was particularly interesting. So you've got companies that are extremely expensive and things that are really cheap. And doesn't that pretty much sum up everything in America right now?
Because there's income disparity, right? It's the Gilded Age again. That's what's happening. People don't realize it. I was at a party the other night and I was trying to explain to a guy that the middle class has been decimated, and he smirked at me. He's like, they've been decimated? Hey, do you have any kids? You try to send them to college? Is your house underwater? Did you lose your retirement when the stock market crashed? Do you know that 50% of all wage earners in America make less than $30,000? Do you know that 64% of Americans have fucking zero savings for retirement? Yes, the middle class has been decimated. And you know what? So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that.
No, that's why
that's exactly your point, that they're going after high-end people and low-end people, right?
Well,
it's burgers and yachts.
I guess Sherwin-Williams, they're for everybody,
I think we're
right?
reading. Look, I think that's true. I don't know that list represents that. First of all, I didn't realize we were in the paint age. You know, like Sherwin-Williams is exploding. What do they go oh, for crying out loud! What are they doing that Benjamin Moore isn't?
No
right?
kidding.
Oh, thank God, I
You
remember.
pulled that one out. You were going. What do they got?
To sweat.
But maybe it was
But
because of all the hurricanes, they sold a lot more stuff. That's what I think.
All right, that's interesting. Can we put the list up again? Because like some of it is like, you know, everyone is becoming wireless, even poor people, right? Nobody doesn't have a cell phone. Not nobody, but almost everybody has a phone. Like Tractor Supply, that suggests that, I don't know, a growth in farms. Starbucks is high-end coffee, but like I don't know, Chick-fil-A is cheap. Yeah. And the paint store might be cheap, and AT&T Wireless, I suspect that's perhaps because the base of wireless customers that's growing might well be lower end people.
Well, that's what it is. I think that is what it is, because they have their subsidiaries like Cricket, which work off the AT&T networks, but they're much cheaper, and they throttle your data and all that. What do you guys make of Chick-fil-A? I guess that whole anti-gay thing didn't really hurt them, huh?
No, that seems to help. It helps a lot. Helps out a lot, right?
Gay chicken.
As much as I like you, but in general, I don't like gays anymore, and I might like them again in the future.
I like gays depending on how hungry I am.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So we were driving to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is very gay friendly.
Thank you for pointing at me.
Fucking braggart.
I'm sorry. Very gay friendly.
Joe Biden's been there.
Joe Biden's been there, right? Yeah. He was there when we were
2 miles from his house.
So we drive up, and we're hungry, and we pull into a outlet mall, and the only place that you could eat in the outlet mall was a portable Chick-fil-A. I haven't eaten in Chick-fil-A.
Wait, what does that mean? A portable?
Like a Chick-fil-A truck.
Oh, Jesus, I didn't even know that existed.
Right. Well, they exist, and so
straight chicken truck.
And we're hungry, and it's the middle of Delaware, which means it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes to get to the end of Delaware, but we were hungry, and that's where we were. And we were with my 90-year-old father, and I hadn't eaten Chick-fil-A in 2 years. It was a tough moment.
So you ate it?
I ate Chick-fil-A. Yeah,
and did you realize as you were eating it, you were kicking me in the nuts?
Yeah. I did. But the thing of it is, I ate it, and I felt terrible. I was like, I went 2 years. I go to Atlanta every 6 weeks. I don't eat it. You know, it's impossible not to eat it in Atlanta. But I think there's an exception for a mobile truck. I think there's a definite caveat.
I would rather eat a cock sandwich than go and get a Chick-fil-A. I'll tell you that.
That can be arranged too.
That's what I'm saying. I've had a few.
All right, robots might soon be taking your order at McDonald's. That's right. Take a look at this image that was posted on Reddit by SnailMail007. He spotted a robotic McDonald's machine at a restaurant near Romeoville, Illinois. And this is where all of McDonald's latest technology gets tested first. And you know, we see all these things. I thought this was interesting because we don't really see these at fast food places or at restaurants, but we do see these like at CVS and that kind of thing, where you check out yourselves. But McDonald's is not the only food chain that's hoping to replace human employees. Panera Bread is going to replace their cashiers, all of their cashiers, with robots. I guess we're calling those things robots.
I like Panera Bread.
By 2016. You like Panera Bread?
I do.
What do you guys make of this? Because there is an economic part of this, which goes to the story we just did, that's, you know, these companies keep wanting to maximize profits, and Republicans, I suppose, would argue if you keep making minimum wage go higher, well, then we're going to have to fire all these people so that we can hire robots. So where do you fall on that?
There's no number, you can't make minimum wage low enough for those guys not to want to fire people.
Right.
There's no number.
They want to fire people.
There is no
regardless.
number. So I just read a story yesterday that, you know, we're having this recovery. It is great that jobs are coming back, right? But they are coming back. They are not nearly the quality of jobs that were lost. So if this now starts to happen, and that people coming back to finding work at jobs like that, then what's the next job? What job do people take when they come back?
Well, I guess
people
still have to repair them and that kind of thing.
I'm pretty sure there are not going to be as many robot mechanics as there are cashiers at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Oh, how about robot masseuse?
Robot masseuse, or sex bot. We've talked a lot about.
How are you going to get the food when you punch it in there?
That is a failure. That is not going to work.
You don't think that's going to work?
That is not. There's no
Why
way.
not?
It's just not be. It doesn't work when there's a person. That well. It's not going to. And what is the problem with cashiers? Oh, I hate cashiers. I hate talking to a person when I want to order. That's not.
Also, now at McDonald's, anything that's moderately cheap at so many places, you know, you're no longer signing your credit card half the time.
Yeah.
Even if you're using your debit card or credit card, whatever it is, you just slide it through. It's $5.73. You know, who cares? Then you look at your statement at the end of the month and you're like, Jesus, I went to Wendy's and McDonald's. Man.
All right, so forgetting the economic...
Do you think it's going to work? Do you here's what I would do.
Yeah.
It might work just like the airline. You think the airlines, right? They all got deregulated, so they all race to the bottom with the cheapest fares.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only like now, like if it took for 20 years or 30 years for Virgin to go, hey, we're going to give you a little bit better experience. It might cost a little bit more. So that's what I think, like fast food, you would think fast food chains would go, we're going to have real people here. You know, you would also think that a shoe company would go and have a billboard up that says, we make our shoes here in America by adults. You'd think that would help you sell, right? You'd think they would do all that shit, but they don't. So maybe they won't do it, and we'll just get fucked over because corporations don't really provide us choice.
Right. Well, we did a story a couple weeks ago about how Starbucks is putting their employees through online college. And I was asking the guests if that would make you more inclined to go to Starbucks, because even if you have to pay a little bit more, you know they're doing something socially
responsible.
Good.
Yeah.
And by the way, yes, the next dickhead in a mask that throws a trash can through Starbucks is going to have to deal with this.
With that.
Like, and by this I mean I'm going to shake my fist at them from afar. But like Starbucks, they're good. And enough with that they came in and they ruined all the local coffee. There were no local coffee chains. You couldn't get coffee. My whole life I couldn't get coffee.
And I don't know if you know if Ben.
By the way, Ben has the old school New York City.
I ordered those
coffee cup.
I have so much disposable income.
You order
that I ordered these cups so I can fill my coffee at home with these.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Forgetting the economic part, though, do you think there's just something about losing a little bit of the human interaction?
Yes.
Not that the people are so great at McDonald's. Look, you go to In-N-Out, they're nice, they're smiley and friendly. I'm always amazed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they're hopped up on drugs. I don't know what's going on.
Stoned.
But at McDonald's, they're never friendly or happy to be there or whatever. And I don't blame them. They're working a pretty crappy job for a low amount of money.
Uniform.
And we've all done that. And the uniform doesn't help in the little hat. Okay, fine. But do you think we lose something by eventually, if everything's just robots and touch screens? I mean, we're doing this all day on our phone anyway, and now we go to get food and we're still doing this all day.
Yes, we do definitely lose something. We're becoming isolated from not only from society, but from each other. You know, Noam Chomsky talks about this. This is what they want. They want you to be isolated. They want you to think that your thoughts are only your own and nobody else is thinking them and all that stuff. This is horrible, right? Yes, I think this is bad. I really hope maybe this will push, if they all go robots, you know, Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King, if they all go robots, maybe there will be local burger stands again. Maybe this will make that happen. You know, if Starbucks went all robots, maybe there would be local coffee shops that would open up. I don't think people like buying food from robots.
Yeah. You know, this has been since the internet age came, and I remember a conversation with one of my friends at like age 22, 23, and he's like, you know, you can call and you get your groceries delivered. You don't have to go to the grocery store. And I was like, I want to go to the grocery store. You know, I didn't have a mobile phone then. I was like, I want to go to the grocery store. I want to, and like, you know, whatever. I overreacted. It's nice to be able to call and get your food delivered if you don't want to. But obviously, as we see, just, you know, slowly, 20 years, 25, 30 years, you start losing connections with people. And that matters. People work from home. You lose connections with people.
You talk about going to the grocery store. So they started instituting a few years ago there's no checker, there's no cashier. You just go do it yourself. Yeah. Which I hate that. It's like, hey, we figured out a way to cut someone's job out.
That's right.
2 people, there's no bagger, there's no thing. This is going to be a headache for you and a pain in the ass, but it makes us more money. So I just steal it.
You steal what?
I steal whatever I got.
Oh, you steal the food.
The credit card machine, whatever you can get his hand on.
And that's my way of pushing back.
All right, final thought. I ask this almost every week, one way or another. What year do you predict the robots will take over?
2012.
They've already taken over.
I was just going to say the same. They took over a long time ago.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's deep. That's deep. All right.
You mean, I'm talking robots like, you know, David Gregory.
Oh. Well, don't worry. He's getting replaced by a newer
By
model.
another robot with a goatee. Isn't that nice?
Just real quick. That's a better robot. That's a better robot.
It's a slightly better robot.
I think it's significantly better, but that speaks more to the incompetent nature of David Gregory.
You know, I learned something by watching the Dog Whisperer, that it doesn't matter what's inside the dog because he's going to make that dog go wherever he wants. So the same thing with Chuck Todd.
Yeah.
He works for a defense contractor. How many checks do you take from a defense contractor before you start calling yourself a journalist?
He works for a giant telecommunications company, not a defense contractor anymore.
General Electric owns 49%.
Of Comcast?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're just going to keep doing this because this is what we do when we're not on camera. Anyway, so follow Ben and Jimmy on Twitter. It's right down below. Get Jimmy's book. We'll put a link to it in the description, and we will do this again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome, guys.